Hello, class. My name is Professor Janeapps MMA, and today's lesson we are going to talk about how fraudulent is Jon Jones's legacy, and it's going to get worse from here on out. As we know, at UFC Fight Night Perth, Carlos Ulberg went on to knock out Dominic Reyes in the first round. Dominic Reyes, one of Jon Jones's former victims. And I put this in quotation because we know what happened the night that Jon Jones and Dominic Reyes fought each other. Dominic Reyes won that fight, but was robbed. One of the worst robberies in UFC history. And obviously, Dominic Reyes' career continued to move on. And it somehow got worse. Jon Jones ended up leaving the division, and Dominic Reyes got a chance at the belt again against Jan Blachowicz. And sadly, he got knocked out and lost. In his next fight, he fought Jiri Prochazka and got brutally murdered by a spinning elbow. He proceeds to get knocked out by Ryan Spann, who's now at heavyweight and recently lost to Cortez Acosta. And from there, I was like, every UFC fan, not even me, but from every UFC fan, we thought, man, we do not want to see this from Dominic Reyes. But, the tables had turned. He knocked out Dustin Jacoby. He beat Anthony Smith, another former victim of, Jon Jones, who we're going to get to later. And he beat Nikita Krylov. But, he loses to Ulberg, and with every single loss that Dominic Reyes collects in his record, it makes Jon Jones' legacy worse. Now, we know that Jon Jones is probably, on everyone's GOAT list, let's be honest. When everybody makes a GOAT list, he's either number 1 through 5. Let's be honest. But as time continues to go, new fighters such as Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski, who's nearing the end of his career but still has a chance, Ilia Topuria, guys that are making a name for themselves and moving up the list, eventually trying to pass Jon Jones. But Jon Jones, how can you say his legacy? How can you say he is the GOAT when he is a steroid user? And mind you, cheaters in other sports, we can go to other sports. We can go to baseball, where there was a steroid era, where basically 89% of the league was on steroids. These guys that, made MLB so good, such as Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, McGwire, they used steroids. They cheated. Guess what their consequences was? They cannot go into the Hall of Fame. Imagine Barry Bonds, one of the greatest baseball players of all time, cannot go into the Hall of Fame because he used steroids. And we have the UFC and other fans out there taking this guy, saying that this guy is the GOAT. Mind you, he cheated multiple times against DC using steroids. But as this man's career goes on, let's look back at his resume, because obviously, if we look at his resume, another thing that is kind of a pattern. First of all, I want to say this before I say anything else. Like MMA Guru said in his video, Jon Jones was the first real light heavyweight in the UFC. And it's a fact. Look at his debut at UFC 87, and look where we are now. Mind you, this is 30 years. This is a young sport. This sport literally just passed 30 years. Jon Jones was out here fighting guys that were past their prime. Stephen Bonner, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans. Like, these guys were old, past their prime. They're past the pride days, like the days where they were elite, where they were using steroids because they could use steroids at the time, but in the UFC you couldn't. But these guys past their prime, and Jones was the youngest light heavyweight champion, the youngest champion in the UFC at the time. Probably still is, let's be honest. Jon Jones, being the youngest champion in the UFC, was fighting guys out of their prime, old men. And as soon as he was getting older and older, obviously DC is an exception. Let's be honest. DC is an exception because DC was one of, the greatest fighters of all time, double champion, whatever. But guys like Rashad Evans, guys like Lyoto Machida, guys like Rampage Jackson, guys like Vitor Belfort, they were not real light heavyweights. Just like MMA Guru said, these are not real light heavyweights. Look how tall Jon Jones looks right next to Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans is a middleweight that's fighting a light heavyweight, let's be honest. Lyoto Machida, he could be a light heavyweight, but in reality he fought most of his career at middleweight too. Rampage Jackson, shorter than Jon Jones. Vitor Belfort, come on, bro. Vitor Belfort should not have been fighting at light heavyweight. He should have been fighting at middleweight. But all these guys, way shorter than Jon Jones, bro. And obviously, way older than Jon Jones. It wasn't until Jon Jones fought Alexander Gustafsson, a man the same age as him, at UFC 165 and in their second fight at UFC 132. After that, he was fighting guys that were younger than him, except Santos, who we're gonna get to in this video as well, and obviously Stipe Miocic. But come on, he was the first light heavyweight fighter of all time, and the guys that he fought were just way shorter than him. And he was obviously, first of all, Jon Jones didn't have no knockout power. He used his fingers to eye poke opponents, take them to 5-round decisions, and yeah, that was pretty much it. It wasn't until he met DC, a real light heavyweight, even though he was shorter than most of these guys. He could wrestle, and he had a way successful career at heavyweight and light heavyweight, dude. Come on, DC. We gotta give some props to the fat guy who's been eating himself out. Let's be honest. But Jon Jones struggled against guys like Dominic Reyes. Look how tall Dominic Reyes is in this photo. And the reason why I'm using like face-offs is so you can get an idea of the guys that were actually, the real light heavyweights that were actually developing and getting into the division. Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith, light heavyweight. Gustafsson was taller than Jon Jones. Let's be honest. Gustafsson was he was a real light heavyweight. And look what Jon Jones. Come on, bro. Jon Jones. Look at the performances he did. He went up against these guys. Against Anthony Lionheart Smith. He went 5 rounds with Anthony Lionheart Smith. When Smith later on in his career was dog shit. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, seeing this picture of Anthony Lionheart Smith, you know, it touched my soul a little bit. It was like, damn, I really wish Smith would have held that belt. But 5 rounds against Smith, he couldn't knock him out. He lost to Dominic Reyes. They robbed Dominic Reyes. Barely won against Thiago Santos with 1 leg. And obviously, most people call this a rigged fight right here. They must have paid Gon under the table. But obviously, Gon did not. I'm going to be honest. Gon did just have no wrestling whatsoever. No wrestling whatsoever. And on top of that, we have Blachowicz calling out Jon Jones. You know what? Jon Jones was up to heavyweight. Francis Ngannou wants to fight Jon Jones. What happens? He's not fighting against Francis Ngannou. He ducked Francis Ngannou. Tom Aspinall, the interim champion. He wants to fight Stipe first, and then guess what? Tom Aspinall retired Jon Jones without even fighting him, because guess what? Jon Jones is a puss and ducked all these fighters here. And you look back at this man's resume. Eventually, he's going to be passed. He is going to be passed. Like, imagine if Ankalaev was literally the same age as Jon Jones with the same skill set that he has right now. Bro, the Big Ank would have killed every single one of these guys, bro. Big Ank would have killed every single one of these guys if he was the same age as Jon Jones with the same skill set that he has now. Bro, Pereira? Maybe Pereira would have struggled because his wrestling is not that good, but bro, he would have killed every single one of these guys with 1 punch, bro. Prochazka would have killed every single one of these guys. Bro, he beat Reyes. Come on, bro. Like, right now, we're getting to see the real light heavyweight division. When Jon Jones was fighting guys like Evans, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, those weren't real light heavyweights. It wasn't until later on in his career that he was fighting real light heavyweights that were developing, that were now getting into where we are now. Where we have Magomed, Pereira, Jiri Prochazka, Khalil Roundtree, dude. Jamal Hill. We're now finally getting into real light heavyweights, not like how it was before. 20, 10 years ago, wherever you want to call it, man. And what I'm trying to say is, what MMA Guru basically said, Jon Jones' career is eventually going to get worse as the years go on. As the more light heavyweights come into the division. As we see another superstar develop and make his way to the top. Eventually, guys like Ilia Topuria. Maybe I know Ilia Topuria wants to retire early, but if Ilia Topuria continues to fight, he clears the lightweight division, fights Islam Makhachev, moves up another division. Like, come on. You don't think he's going to pass Jon Jones on the goal list? What about Islam Makhachev? The man's fighting at Madison Square Garden in December. if he beats JDM and decides to stay in that division and fight a couple more guys, you don't think this man is not gonna be number one? Go for pound, go. Come on, man. Islam Makhachev, and I'm not even a Makhachev glazer. I'm an Ilya glazer, but man, Makhachev. Come on, Makhachev. If he beats JDM, if he beats Ilya, dude. Come on, there's no way you can tell me he does not pass Jon Jones in the GOAT list. Merab. What if Merab moves up a division? Like, come on, Merab. There's so many fighters that are dominating the sport now. Like, if we look back at the champs that were before compared to now, I think a lot of champs from now can beat the older guys. Let's be honest. Tom Aspinall, brother. I think Tom Aspinall can murder Cain Velasquez, bro. Both of them in their prime, Tom Aspinall murders Cain Velasquez, bro. Let's be honest, bro. But that's all I gotta say, man. Like, the more of Jon Jones's victims, which is not that many anymore, let's be honest. But the more time goes on, the more other fighters, other GOATs, other guys that are on the GOAT list, that are active right now, keep on fighting, building the resume, collecting more heads, collecting more belts, the more we're going to realize Jon Jones' legacy is fraudulent and he's not going to be the GOAT anymore. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm Jon Jones MMA. Like and subscribe to this video, and I'm out.